have only spun and woven goods come under the prohibition of kalayim, for it is written, "You shall not wear shatnez." That which is shua, tuva, or nutz, where Shimon ben Elazar says nalos, he is estranged, and umletz is strange his father in heaven against him. Felted materials are forbidden because they are combed, and edging of wool on linen is forbidden because it interfaces the web. And Rabbi Yossi says purple woolen cords are forbidden because one stitches them in order that they may hold until tying them up. One may not buy a tie with woolen, may not tie a woolen with a flaxen ribbon to gird one's loins, even though there is a scrap in the middle. The marks of weavers and marks of lordshipmen are forbidden on account of kalayim, and a single stitch is not considered a fastening, and it does not come under the prohibition of kalayim. And if one undoes it on top, it is exempt. If one brings both ends to the same side, it is fastening and comes under prohibition of kalayim. And if one undoes it on the Shabbos, he is liable. Rabbi Yehuda says only if one makes three, a sack and a basket combined to constitute kalayim. Yeah, 101.
Hey, kalayim. All right. And Shevi'is. All right, so Masechah Shevi'is is opening with the Sabbath.
Oh, I didn't take it out. I'm sorry, I didn't take it out.
Go ahead.
Aleph.
So we're starting with the subject of not working the field, and the Mishnah actually starts with the point of on the assumption that you already know that you're not allowed to work a field in Shemitah. But there's a time before that Chazal said we're going to add an isser to work the field even before towards the end of the 6th year,
Right.
so that because if you're working the field, it gives the appearance that you're preparing for Shemitah. So so when it comes to a field of trees, in other words, an orchard, you're allowed to work the field up to only a certain point in the 6th year. What is that? Asks the Mishnah. Anytime that it will be beneficial for the fruit of that year. Okay. Until Shavuos. Which is basically the same time period. So there's not really a machlokes Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. It's just they describe the period differently. Okay, so now we know that you're allowed to plow an orchard up until Shavuos. The question is, what is the definition of an orchard? Okay, so basically we're talking about an area of a Beis Sa'ah that has 3 trees in it, and that are of a size that they could produce one fig cake of 60 money, according to the Italian measure. Okay, so they've got to be 3 trees of a minimum size that they can produce a certain amount of fruit. Chorshim kol Beis Sa'ah b'shvilan, so the whole of that Beis Sa'ah may be plowed on account of these 3 trees. Pachos mikan, however, if it's less than this, it's 2 trees, or if the trees are too small, then your restriction is that you're only allowed to plow around the base of the trees themselves, a distance of the guy who walks around with his basket outside the tree, so that it's no longer treated as a field; it's treated as individual trees, and you're allowed to plow just around those trees, but not the rest of the field. Okay. Echad ilan strak, echad ilan machal. And now the Mishnah comes and tells us that actually, when we say an orchard, that's actually that's not really accurate. It's any set of trees. So even if you've got a bunch of pine trees that doesn't produce anything, okay, but you want to keep the trees, you want to loosen the soil around the trees for the benefit of the trees, okay. So it doesn't make a difference. You look at that pine tree and say, well, if this were a fig tree of this size, would it produce the amount of figs required? Then you're allowed to plow the entire field on account of these trees. If the trees are smaller again, then you're only allowed to plow around the individual trees, not the whole field. according to how much it would be beneficial to those trees. Okay?
Hey, good. Good. Okay. Paya. Daled Abate. If one adores his friend to eat with him and he does not trust him regarding tithes, he eats with him on the first Shabbos, even though he does not trust him regarding tithes, provided he says to him, it is tithe. But on the second Shabbos, even if he vowed not to derive any benefit from him, he may not eat unless he tithes. Rabbi Eliezer says one need not designate Matzah of Demai, but the sages say he designates it but does not separate it. And if one designated Truma Maisa of Demai and Maisa Ani of definitely untied products, he may not take them on Shabbos. If a priest or a poor person were accustomed to eat with him, they may come and eat, provided that he informs them.
Okay, so now we've done Demai. Can we come back to Kilayim because there was some Chazara there we didn't do. Kilayim Zayin Aleph.
Right, you're right. Okay.
I'm flexible. It's okay.
Okay. Zayin Aleph. Okay. If one sinks a vine into the ground and there is not 3 handbreadths of soil above it, he may not bring seeds on it, even if he sunk it into a gourd or a pipe. If he sunk it into a rock, then even if there is only 3 breadths of soil above it, he is permitted to bring seeds on it, and the knee of a vine is measured from the second root. If one depresses 3 vines and their roots are visible, Rabbi Eliezer ben Tzaddik says if there are 4 to 8 cubits between them, they combine, and if not, they do not combine. A withered vine is forbidden but does not render forbidden. Rabbi Meir says cotton is also forbidden but does not render forbidden. Rabbi Elazar ben Tzaddik says in his name, also above the vine it is forbidden, yet it does not render forbidden. The following forbid, but do not render forbidden: the remainder of a vineyard laid waste, the remainder of a machal of a vineyard, the remainder of gaps in an iris, and the remainder of trellis frames. But beneath a vine, tillage space of vine, and 4 cubits in a vineyard, these render forbidden.
Right.
Okay, that's everything. Okay.
Yeah, that's
okay. No, we finished that. We finished it.
we're into Machshir now.
Machshir. Okay. Dalad Yud. Regarding logs upon which a liquid fell and then rain fell on them, if the volume of rainwater exceeded the volume of the liquid, it's tahor. If he took the logs outside so the rain should fall on them, then even though the volume of rainwater exceeded the volume of the liquid, it is tameh. If the logs be absorbed tameh liquids, and even though he took them outside so rain should fall on them, the rainwater is tahor, but he should kindle them only with tahor hands. Then Shimon says if the logs were moist and he kindled them, and the volume of the liquid they excluded was greater than the volume of the liquid they absorbed, liquid is tahor. If someone immersed in a river, and there was another river in front of him, and he crossed it, the river of the second river cleanses the water of the first river. If his friend pushed him due to his drunkenness and likewise to his animal, the water of the second river cleanses the water of the first river. But if he was sporting with him, it is included in the law of water is placed. If someone swims on the water that splashes is not included in the law of water is placed. But if he intended to splash water on his friend, this is included in the law of water is placed. If someone makes bubbles in the water, that water that splashes then that which is in it are not included in the law of water is placed.
Okay. Back to Kalim.
Caleb, where do you have that I have? Zion Dalit?
Kalim. No, we're in Kalim. Kalim, chapter 20, Mishna 5.
I did it again. I said, I pulled that Kalim. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, man. It's right in front of me. I can't believe it. Okay. Hey, regarding a block that one set in a row of bricks, whether he set it in the wall but did not build on it, or he built on it but did not set it in the wall, is tameh. If he set it in the wall and built on it, it is tahor. Regarding a mat that one placed over ceiling beams, whether he attached it to the beams or did not lay plaster over it, or he laid plaster over it but did not attach it to the beams, it is tameh. But if he attached it and laid plaster on it, it is now tahor. Regarding a plate that one attached to a bin, a chest, or a cabinet, if it was attached in the way that it receives, it is tameh. But if it was attached not in the way it receives, it is tahor. Regarding a sheet that is susceptible to becoming tummy with midrash tuma and one made into a curtain, it is impervious to midrash tuma, but is susceptible to becoming tummy with corpse tuma. From when does it become tahor? When Shei Shammai says from when it is broken. Batzil says from when it is tied. And Rebbe Kiva says when it is attached. A mat on which one placed reed stalks along its length is tahor, but the sages only say if the stalks are laid similar to the shape of a key, then he placed the reed stalks along the mat's width, but there are not 4 handbreadths between one reed and the next, it is tahor. If it is split with its width, Rabbi Yehuda rules a tahor, and similarly, if one unties the end knots, it is tahor. If split in its length and 3 knots remains of 6 handbreadths, it's tameh. From when does a mat become susceptible to tuma? From when it is trimmed, and this represents the completion of the manufacturers.
Okay. And beta.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. First, we're into Makos. Beg your pardon.
Okay. Just as the testimony of 2 is void if one of them is a relative or ineligible, so is the testimony of 3 void if one of them is a relative or ineligible. How do we know that this is even so of 100? Because the Torah says witnesses. Rabbi Yossi says that this is only so in capital cases, but in monetary cases, suits, the evidence can be sustained by the rest. And Rebbe says it applies like in monetary suits and in capital cases if they warn them, but if they did not warn them, it does not apply. For otherwise, what should 2 brothers who saw one committing a murder do? If 2 saw from him from one window and 2 from another window, and one of the middle warned him, then if some can see the others, they are counted as a single body of testimony. But if they cannot, they are counted 2 bodies of testimony. Hence, if one set of witnesses are found to be Zomamin, and they are put to death, and the second is exempt, the Yossi says none may be put to death unless he has been warned by his 2 witnesses, as is written, by the mouth of 2 witnesses, and another interpretation by the mouth of 2 witnesses that the Sanhedrin shall not hear from the mouth of an interpreter. If a person fled after he being sentenced and he came again before the same court, his sentence is voided. Whoever stands up and declares...
It's not voided.
I'm sorry, right, it's not voided. Whoever 2 stand up and declare, we testify that A was sentenced to death by such and such a court, and B and C were witnesses, A is executed. A Sanhedrin has jurisdiction in Eretz Yisrael and outside it. A Sanhedrin that carries out an execution once in 7 years is called destructive. If Eleazar ben Cesarea says 1 in 70 years, and Reb Tarfon and Reeva said if we had been members of the Sanhedrin, no one would have even been put to death. Gamil says that would indeed have increased shedders of blood in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One more.
No, that's it. That's it. Going on to beta now.
Okay. Pepper mills are susceptible to uncleanliness on account of 3 kinds of utensils, because of being a utensil which is a receptacle, being a metal utensil, and being utensils used for sifting. A child's cart is susceptible to midrash uncleanness and may be carried on the Sabbath, but they may be not dragged over except over articles. Rabbi Yehuda says no object may be dragged except for the cart because it presses. And if one may not catch fish from a vivarium on Yom Tov, and one may not put food up before them, but one may hunt game and fowl from a vivarium, and one may place food before them. May place food before them. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says not all of the vivarium are alike. This is the rule. Whatever needs to be hunted is forbidden, and whatever does not need to be hunted is permitted. Okay.
And we're done.
Okay. Now I should turn to my computer, but I can't. Okay.